Welcome to the Safe Transfer of Crew, Catch and Equipment module, which attempts to raise awareness of the importance of safely transferring crew, catch and equipment on and off a boat. Transferring crew, catch or equipment with the boat tied up at the jetty or wharf is a routine activity that is often taken for granted, with a requirement for safe access often overlooked, particularly if the boat is alongside for only a brief period. However, it is important to note that boat access injuries are amongst the most common cause of injury to crew, and sometimes, sadly, the outcome is loss of life, usually due to falling between the boat and the jetty or the wharf. Factors that have contributed to boat access injuries and deaths in the past include the skipper did not provide a safe and secure means to get on or off the boat. The skipper did not consider boat access in the boat's safety management system and therefore did not assess the risks or apply steps to eliminate or reduce the risks. And in some instances, the skipper did not adequately implement or enforce the boat's alcohol and drugs policies. Additional contributing factors were the responsibility of the crew member that was injured or died, mainly a failure to identify and assess the risk associated with boat access and or being affected by alcohol or drugs at the time. Complacency can clearly be life-changing. Under workplace health and safety law, the skipper is required to take all reasonable and practicable safety measures to provide a safe workplace and take all steps deemed reasonably practicable to protect the crew from hazards and risks. This includes providing safe access to and from the boat, providing crew training in how to safely cross between the boat and jetty or wharf, providing training in how to safely transfer catch and equipment between the boat and jetty or wharf, and finally, identifying when conditions are unsafe for crew and equipment to be transferred between the boat and the jetty or wharf. Under this law, a failure to take all reasonable and practicable safety measures to provide safe access may result in the skipper receiving a large fine if an injury results, or facing a charge of industrial manslaughter and possible jail time if a fatality is the outcome. It's also that crew have a responsibility to take reasonable care for their own health and safety, act responsibly, adhere to their training and comply with instructions from the skipper. To safely board and disembark the boat whilst tied to a jetty or wharf, the skipper should provide a safe and secure means such as a purpose-built gangway with handrails and a non-slip walking surface. While this response may seem excessive and better suited to larger boats or ships, it or other suitable options should still be considered for smaller boats. It is also important that the influence of tidal variation is taken into account in the design and fitting of the gangway, and that at night adequate lighting is provided to illuminate the gangway. Of course, the boat should first be tied up correctly alongside the jetty or wharf using an appropriate tie-up procedure, usually with at least a bow and stern line and 2 springers. The Safe Berthing module describes this process in detail. When loading or unloading between the boat and jetty or wharf, it is essential that care is taken to maintain balance, protect the back from strain injuries, protect hands and feet from crush injuries, and to avoid falling overboard. Heavy or bulky items should always be lifted by mechanical means such as a crane, davit, or by winch if available. If required to be lifted manually, 2 or more crews should be used. Lifting should be done using the legs whilst keeping a straight back, and with both crew members working as a team. Safe lifting practices are described in the Lifting Safety module. It is essential that any catch, equipment or other items being transferred are safely secured in their basket, box or container and cannot shift or fall out. These items could cut, puncture or crush arms, legs or feet as they fall. If these items fall whilst overhead, they could also cause significant head injury. Items falling out of their container could also cause the container to become unstable and additional items falling out. If being manually lifted, this could result in loss of balance and crew falling overboard. Hands or feet should also not be placed on the gunwale or rail while transferring items to avoid possible crush injury between the boat and the jetty or wharf. This can be minimised by the use and appropriate placement of fenders between the boat and the jetty or the wharf, although they should not be relied upon. In the worst instance, a hand or foot injury could put an end to your fishing career. When tying up or working on the jetty or wharf, curious members of the public may be standing close by, excited to see the fishing industry at work. Whilst these individuals may seem to be a nuisance and get in the way, it is essential that you are proactive and take steps to eliminate their risk of injury. This includes politely asking them to step back to avoid injury from tie-up ropes as they are tossed onto the jetty or wharf, to step back to avoid impeding loading or unloading activity, to avoid being run over by vehicles, and to avoid falling off the jetty or wharf. Remember, most of these individuals do not appreciate these hazards and risks. They are also standing in a public place and so are permitted to stand nearby, watch you at work, or to continue their fishing activity. Your behaviour will also be viewed as representative of the fishing industry, and your patience is therefore essential. Sometimes there is a need to transfer crew and equipment between boats at sea. If neither boat is anchored, then a bow-to-bow or bow-to-stern transfer may be achievable. This should only be attempted in calm seas or sheltered waters. Risks associated with this manoeuvre include crush injuries to crew between boats and crew or equipment falling overboard, particularly as each boat drifts about independently as a result of sea, swell, wind and tide. If one boat is at anchor, it may be possible for the second boat to tie up alongside or stern to stern. The risks of crush injuries or falling overboard are still high using this manoeuvre, particularly if heavy or bulky items are transferred between boats or crew do not take adequate care. Usually the safest option to achieve such a transfer is to use a dinghy, although this too should only be done in calm weather or in sheltered waters. Key safety risks during this manoeuvre include falling overboard or crush injuries to hands or feet between the dinghy and boat whilst alongside. Safe practices during this manoeuvre are described in greater detail in the dinghy safety module. This module also describes safe steps to take to transfer crew and equipment from the dinghy to the jetty, wharf, another boat or to the beach. As with any activity on board, it is essential that all risks are considered and assessed before action is taken. These should be identified in the Boat Safety Management System or SMS, including appropriate actions to complete the task as safely as possible. This is described in greater detail in the Safety Management System module. Finally, while the SMS provides useful guidance, all individuals attempting to get on or off a boat or involved in transferring catch and equipment should also take some care and responsibility for their own actions. This includes applying the stop, think, act approach, which has been discussed in the Job Safety Analysis module. First, stop and identify the basic steps necessary to safely complete the transfer. Next, think about the hazards and risks to your safety and that of others, such as falling onto the deck or between the boat and jetty or the wharf. And finally, act by introducing control measures to overcome the risks, such as using a gangway or safety rope, or waiting for the tide to rise and bring the boat level with the jetty or wharf. The stop, think, act approach only takes seconds to work through, but could save you or others from injury or worse. It should also be applied to all tasks on the boat. Great, you have now finished this module. Now let's attempt to answer a few questions to review the material we covered.